This is Sean Spicer at Agile IT, head of marketing over here. I'm filling in for Conrad once again this week. Just to kind of moderate the tech talk, we've got our good friend Rich Carlsen here, who's going to be talking about the vast Azure landscape, offering some educational resources, how to kind of self-guide yourself or self-guide your education and learning about all the things that Azure has to offer. Rich has been great. He's been doing a lot of tech talks with us. This will be his last for a while as he's moving into more high-performance computing and discrete manufacturing projects there with Microsoft. I want to give a huge thanks to Rich for all the help he's given us over the last month or two, getting all of these great Azure talks going. So the format, as always, will be a short talk and demo by Rich, followed by open conversation and questions afterwards that can be about the topic or anything you're encountering within your IT networks and systems operations. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rich. And thank you again, Rich.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hi again. My name is Rich Carlsen. I'm a cloud solutions architect here at Microsoft, focused on Microsoft Azure. Recently, I've been just working across the landscape of Azure. A lot of apps and infrastructure, a lot of AI applications, you name it, whatever Microsoft is working on, I've been touching a lot of parts of it. And, you know, a big question that comes up to a lot of people is how do you guys learn all this stuff? Is there some kind of magic juice they give you at Microsoft or something that you're instantly educated on everything? And what I want to do is help you today and share with you some of the some tips and tricks and things that I do to learn my craft, and hopefully that'll help you down your journey as well. Astounding innovation, endless possibilities. We're living in an age of breathtaking innovation where cloud technology is at the core of how we do business. And the cloud is unlocking the power and freedom to achieve success however you choose to define it. And, you know, I fully understand that individual change agents who decide to pursue this opportunity will be challenged by complexity, resistance, and uncertainty. This tech talk is about how you can do this and also about how Microsoft can help you. So the pairing of the Microsoft relationship with you produces a unique pairing of customer enterprise grit and innovation. And the grit is you, what you're passionate about doing and what you're passionate about achieving, innovation that comes along in the process, and the innovation that we bring forward to you that you can use. And all of this in service of human achievement. That's what we believe at Microsoft. At Microsoft, we're committed to the principles of community, and we embrace open source with free exchange of ideas and creativity. And so we're really into educating, sharing, and moving things forward. And just to let you know, we rail against technology elitism as the cloud-only mindset. I personally believe in using the right technologies in the right place at the right time, whether that be a hybrid cloud where you have things on-premise and in the cloud. You can also burst to the cloud when you need additional resources, you know, need to reproduce a system. You're doing big compute and you need more resources instantaneously to get the job done on a periodic basis. Disaster recovery or special needs point solutions that would be very good to put up in the cloud. That you need to be able to have that immediacy and agility to do. Again, we can impact so much with business applications, life sciences, scientific research, manufacturing, logistics, you know, tracking trucks and that sort of thing. And then again, if you just want to do some special integrations, it's just boundless what the possibilities can be. Many people ask at Microsoft, how do you learn your stuff? And, you know, every day I challenge myself to dream, envision, learn, and grow. I've been doing this now for 39 years, and every day I treat as my first day. And I make sure that I'm dreaming, envisioning, and learning so I can make a positive contribution to society and my company. And it's very important to keep a solid personal charter. And again, mind, dream, envision, learn, and grow. And if you don't have a dream, get dreaming. In working with Agile IT and Microsoft, we can help you identify the business opportunities and the right technologies. And that's what we can do for you to help you on your learning journey. But once your direction, opportunities, and challenges have been identified, the big question is always how to learn and gain technical knowledge. Certification, of course, is a very good way to retain focus on your targeted learning journey. It gives you a very, very good foundation and can unlock many possibilities for your thinking and your solutions. The other is plain old-fashioned study, and that's what I'm going to help you with. Part of what I'm going to help you with today. And I've gained the majority of my knowledge through certification, independent study, and working in the real world with you, the customer. And this is really the great advantage that you have is the real world, boots on the ground, dealing with technical and business challenges and what you can do for your company to either unlock more opportunity and able to save money. And again, the solutions are boundless. So I'm going to take a tour. We're going to take a tour right now of the resources at your disposal and some of the tips and tricks. I'm only going to show you one more slide and then we're going to jump right into it. This is on the azure.microsoft.com site, really easy to get to. And we have a number of different categories here, which I'll be covering some of. One of is training, which I just popped onto right now. And I'm going to bring up a browser right now and give you a little tour of this, free online courses about learning paths, hands-on labs, and then we're going to actually jump into some documentation where I can give you some tips and tricks on what I do to streamline the process and learn as much as I possibly can in the shortest amount of time. Okay, so let's pick a browser, bring it into the window, and here we are. Okay, we're on training here, and we have a lot of free courses on Pluralsight. Once you roll into this, it's going to ask you what your roles are if you're an administrator, developer, or a solutions architect. And it's going to help you on that, on your learning path. And you can register for these courses for free. And once you get in here, I think you'll be amazed at what's at your disposal as far as free courses. And they include videos and things to read. They're just really, really good. I use these a lot. And we also have learning paths as well. So if you want to get on a particular learning path, say you know a lot about AWS, but you want to learn more about Azure and how they equate. And you could be converting from AWS to Azure. You may want to use both for a best of breed environment. And we're going to help you out in that particular area. We also have learning paths for AI. If you're a .NET developer, if you want to be a solution architect, or you are a solution architect, or in Node.js, which is extremely popular right now out in the industry for programming web applications. Azure administrators and Azure Stack operators. And if you don't know what Stack is, Azure Stack is the equivalent of having Azure but on premise. And it will integrate with your Azure cloud as well too. So you can have a very seamless hybrid environment where what you're dealing with on premise is the same as what you're dealing with in the cloud or working with in the cloud, and make a really nice, clean and pretty implementation. So going back to training, this is where we started. We're going to go over to other areas as well. If you have a lot of specific questions, a very specific question, a need, something that you need to get done and need to get done quickly, we have a support community out here. And the support community, we have a lot of blogs, and I think, let me just jump to one. Let's just view one of the forums. And we at Microsoft and our customers are very active on these forums. And if you go searching through these with the old 80-20 rule, most of the time the question or challenge that you have run into has already been, the question's already been posed on these forums. And so it's a very, very quick way to get to get answers for your immediate needs. And then as well too, you know, if you drill into our solutions area, we have a lot of solutions in different areas that you can look at. And so we have architectures, which are real neat. So they can, let me just give you an example of one of those. Let's go to Batch. Azure Batch is a distributed computing technology that we have for orchestrating, scheduling, managing, um, and running distributed applications such as high performance computing, which I just happen to be very, very involved in right now. And so there's big computing with Azure Batch. And if you go into this particular area, we do a lot of explanation of how Batch works, which is very nice. And you can show flow information. So it puts these flow charts into a lot, makes them make a lot more sense as far as what they do, putting it just into text, into English terms. Because oftentimes when you're looking at these diagrams, there's a lot of blanks, you know, a lot of questions. So this is a very good place to go. And then again, you can go straight on into Azure Batch as well too, and learn more about it. And we have so many resources to learn about Azure Batch. And my favorite place, documentation. In my learning journey, I always start with documentation first. This is going to be the most high quality place you can go to learn everything that you need to know about a particular technology. So often we look for shortcuts and use Google or Bing and surf the internet to try to find a quicker way to learn a technology. And my discipline is always to start with the documentation. And even starting with the documentation, it can be a little bit confusing at times because you're looking at an overview, quick starts, tutorials, samples, concepts, how-to guides, run books, reference, and resources. And oftentimes, people tend to start with the quick starts and the tutorials. And what I do is I start out with the overview. And I read this from top to bottom. And from there, I go in deep. The way to go in deep is to go into concepts. And once you're in concepts, this is going to give you more in-depth information and be a lot more reading. And I know for some people are video watchers and some people are readers. We have lots of videos available on all of these technologies. But for people who are very video centric and reading can be a focus problem, especially at the end of the day if you're trying to absorb a lot of information. What I do is I use read aloud extensively, and what I'll do is I'll use read aloud and I'll accelerate it a little bit, which you can do, and go through this from top to bottom. And I do this religiously. I go through this documentation, the overview, and the concepts before I move on to tutorial samples and other things. Another great area to go into is right down here at the bottom is resources. And here you're going to get your Batch community. You're going to get your Azure roadmap, Batch shipyard, which is pretty cool. Takes you right to GitHub and gives you an application to work with to get started. It's real good stuff. And let's see what else I can share with you on this. Again, you look at it by technology, but let's go up to, again, more focused on documentation. You can see here we have documentation that's very categorized here and most popular. But if you go into products, it gets much more distinct. And here you can learn about DevOps and what we do in this particular area. You can learn about container services.
Now, Rich, the DevOps that you just clicked, I know that they've recently rebranded the Azure Visual Studio. Is this including all of the former Visual Studio content?
This has everything in it pertaining to Azure.
Okay.
Okay, so now we have Visual Studio App Center. So your online services will be very centric in this particular area on Azure.com. We do something again where I'm going to reflect back to Azure to high performance computing and big compute. There's a number of technologies that Microsoft offers in this area, and there's many more technologies that are open, that are out there to be used either on the Windows or the Linux platforms as well too, which can run on Azure. But one is that comes forward is HPC Pack. It's high performance computing pack. It was born outside of the cloud. Most high performance computing in the old days was done on premise with a Cray computer or whatever it may be, and it's very expensive and very unpredictable environment to try to support. So now what we've done is we have HPC Pack, and it runs up in Azure and in your environment. So we offer a lot of documentation on HPC Pack in the Azure documentation. That's a good example because it will run up in an IaaS environment. And then if you wanted to move to a PaaS environment, you would move up to Azure Batch. And then if you wanted to start getting more sophisticated, there's at the top end of it, we offer something called Cycle Cloud as well too, which is our high-end approach to it. So so that's a good example where some of the not born in the cloud sort of solutions will manifest themselves. Okay.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned looking at the documentation versus Google searches, and whenever I'm learning something, I'm usually very project-based. So I have fallen guilty of doing the Google searches for a quick fix to something. But what I've found though is when you go back and you actually look at the documentation and structured, and I'm going through the Azure Learning Path right now for admin, just so I know a little bit more, even though I am just the marketing wonk around here. But one of the issues around doing Google searches is you wind up with a piecemeal approach. And one of the impacts of that people don't usually recognize, and I've seen a lot in software development, is that you put enough patches in, and what you wind up inducing is a lot of security problems and a lot of technical debt and issues in scalability in the long term. So I really like that you've showed that off. So is there a general path that you would recommend for somebody to discover everything that Azure is capable of? One of the things that I think really threatens people as they're looking at cloud architecture is, well, okay, this is for really big companies, but increasingly I'm seeing applications that fit for the small to medium enterprise that just takes away the servers and just gives almost superpowers to these businesses.
Yeah. There's a new exam out we have for architecture, which is very good. It's one of our latest exams. It's the 535 to be an Azure architect. And there's a learning path on that and courses. And a lot of it's video. And I would say if you're going to pursue the certification, or even if you're not, to go through those courses to give yourself a solid foundation and get that behind you as far as what the possibilities are going to be. Another way, if you're extremely focused and you have a particular need, but you just don't know across this vast landscape where to get started, again, is to work with people like you, with Agile IT, for customers to work with you, because you do have that foundation and can help them get up and running at a much faster rate than trying to get started all by yourself. You can see we're embracing open source, we're embracing these blogs, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about community and what the community can do to help each other. And that's why we love Agile IT, because you guys have done a really good job of this. And again, a real good way to go. Otherwise, again, start with the certifications. Give yourself a real good, solid, broad foundation. And then from there, the possibilities start to open up, and it also streamlines your research.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thank you, Rich. We love you too. So Do you have more to present right now, or did you want to open it up for questions for everybody?
I'd like to open it up for questions because the intent of this discussion is really boots on the ground, and I know how hard this is, and so I want to be able to help everybody as much as possible today. So if there's any specific questions, let's hear it.